it was so powerful when he said this and so profound. And I want to share this with those that are here. Several years back, I went to him and I said, Pastor, I said, why is life so hard? Why does it feel like it's one thing after another? And here's what he said. He said, Justin, he said, character is not a gift. And he said, character is not something that you can pray for. Character only is developed in the hard times. Who you are trying to become and who you're called to be, you need to develop into that person. And you don't develop character and you don't develop maturity and you don't grow on the mountaintop. You grow in the valley. You grow during the hard times. Your character is developed through difficult situations. I mean,
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday to you. It just does not. Where did the week go? I mean, seriously, where did the week go? Where did the first quarter go? Where did the month go? Remember, April Fools tomorrow. We got April Fools tomorrow. So I'll be on tomorrow, guys. I promise I'll be on tomorrow. I can't wait to see everybody there. I promise I'll be there. Guys, happy Friday to you. Good morning, Chad. We got Chris and we got Nikia's here, Chanel, Sherry. For those in the Facebook world, good morning. Guys, make sure you say good morning to where you are today. Tell us where you're from. This is your first time being on here. Put it in the chat. Tell us what you got going on. Tell us what, baby, it's a little spring-like here. I got my spring here, my Easter outfit on today. Pulled out my Easter shirt. Share with you here very shortly what that's all about here. So good morning to you guys. I got a special guest today. He has meant a lot to me in my life, so I'm excited to bring him on here very shortly. So good morning, everybody. Welcome. My name is Brock Zivan. I'm a life coach, business coach, real estate agent, and a dad. And the dad part today this is one of my favorite days. Good morning, Pat. Facebook, don't be shy now. Tell us good morning. What's up, Christian? Cullen from Seattle is here. Good morning. Good morning, Suave. So here, now guys, don't be scared of video either. Don't be scared of video today. You can go on video. Right, Chad? We can go on video today. Chad likes video. So today, why it's special for me on the dad part is I get to go Easter egg hunt with Bryce today. Big 4-year-old Easter egg hunt today. And the funny thing is, you guys are going to laugh at this. We practiced last weekend. I practiced and I put eggs all around the house. I said, all right, Bryce, get your bin, be ready to go, bud. You gotta be stealth. Now you gotta share though. We practice sharing too. So don't forget, I did practice sharing. So did that, but he's like, Dad, can we practice again today? I said, Bryce, we have no time for practice. We have soccer, but I like his mentality. So I got that today at 10. And then I'm very, very excited that I have a father-daughter dance tonight with my daughter, Brielle. So we got a nice restaurant we're going to. Even though we're at a nice restaurant, I promise you she's still probably going to get butter noodles or macaroni and cheese. So I had to double check the menu. I don't think they don't have chicken nuggets, but I'm really excited. It's our last one, and so I'm probably going to cry. She's 5th grade, so it's the last one of elementary school. And so I'm getting all dressed up. So I'm just so very excited about that. So, all right. But you didn't come here to listen to me on that. It is Figure It Out Friday. It is Happy Figure It Out Friday. Let's start off with our affirmation. For those of you, this is your first time being on here this morning in the Facebook world. We do an affirmation each and every morning. It sounds like this, and then we will repeat it all together. Something good is going to happen to me. Something good is going to happen through me. Everybody now, something good is going to happen to me. Something good is going to happen through me. So with that being said, let us bring on our guest. Let me share with you a little bit of the story about Justin. So, Justin Ford and I literally met about 2 years ago. Him and I were just talking this morning at 8 o'clock, and I was sharing with him another story of how he's impacted my life. But before I met Justin, I was actually in the mountains on a trip with Wendy and her family. It was around Christmas time, January. I had no clue who Justin was. And for those why I share this story is, you know how I am when I tell you my goal is to find 5 high level people that impact my life. And so Justin, I was listening to one of his podcasts. He was sharing a story about what he was, what his past was. And I was listening to his past, and he has his new book called Unleashed. But I was listening to this guy, and I was like, I told Wendy, I was like, I was literally going to New York. Okay. I was doing a coaching seminar in New York, and I looked at Wendy. I was like, Jeff Glover's got an event down in Florida. I think I'm going to go down. I got to meet this guy, Justin. She's like, but I thought you were going to New York, but I think I can squeeze down there for 2 extra days. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive down to New York, and I'm going to go meet this guy. And so I literally, because that's how my brain works, I literally go all the way down to Florida. And my goal was to meet this guy, Justin. And I remember to this day, we were next to our buddy. He was next to his buddy Juan at the time. And I met him, but he was in, and Justin's probably like, oh, I remember this guy. He freaking just ran at me. Like it was like in this outside area, nice in Florida. And I saw him. And it was at break, and I walked right up. I shake his hand. I said, my name is Brock. I heard your story. And I want to introduce myself to you. And since then, my life has transformed. He has brought spiritualness into my life. I now lead a prayer call with this guy. He started a prayer call in the real estate line. I was Catholic, but I didn't understand prayer. I didn't understand conversations with God. He brought it into my life. My life has completely changed. Him and I, we still to this day engage with each other for 2 years. Sometimes for those that go to conferences, you go to these conferences and you're like, yeah, I'm going to meet with you and talk with you. And then you really, maybe it lasts for like 2 weeks, but then you kind of like disappear and everybody goes into their normal life. But him and I still remain in contact with each other for the last 2 years at a very high level. Like we wish we could talk more, but we're very busy all the time. But I wanted to bring him on. I've been asking him to come on, and he's on vacation actually right now in Florida. And so I'm so blessed and thankful to bring him on. I said, bud, you could share whatever you want. You know, as always, I'm like, all right, here's our time period. Here's what we got. I was like, but I just am so blessed and thankful, Justin, to have you on here today. So I wanted to welcome you, buddy. What's up, my brother?
Hey, man. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Where are you? So you're in Florida. Where in Florida are you at right now? Orlando?
I'm in Orlando at the, I think it's called the Holiday Inn something, resort. And I'm actually lost. This place is so big. I'm like driving back to the condo and I'm lost because this place is like, it's huge. But yeah, I just came down for a few days. My wife and kids came down on Sunday and they're here till Sunday. So I came down on Wednesday tomorrow, but really having a good.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, I know part of your story, and I want you to share part of Figure It Out Friday is I bring on successful people who've gone through the trenches. You know, you had the addiction problem, jail time. You went and you had some of your defining moments in that. And
Yep.
so share with us your story of how it came into play. I knew God wasn't part of your life and you worked
Yep.
through that, but share with us, your story on how you've got to the position you are today, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, by the way. I didn't grow up in I would say I grew up in a broken home. So I didn't grow up in a home where I was, really given a solid, starting point. My parents divorced when I was 2. My dad was an alcoholic. And at the age of 12, my mom got a second divorce with my stepdad. And after that divorce, I actually went to go live with my biological dad. And at the time, he was sober for a little bit. He was going to AA meetings. And not too long after I moved in with him, he relapsed. And so because he, went back down the path of alcohol at an early age of like 14, I started, drinking and smoking weed and having sex and doing all of those things. And it really just led me down, a path that I didn't anticipate. And I remember hearing this, and maybe those that are on here maybe heard this when you were younger, that marijuana is like a gateway drug. And a lot of people say, well, that's not true. And I used to say that that's not true. But it ended up leading me down a path of experimenting with a lot, harder drugs. And so I got, real involved with, doing cocaine and ecstasy and, all sorts of stuff. And, I was a great student in school. I was an honor roll student. My grandfather, was an attorney, and he had told me that he said, if you go to college and you stay out of trouble, I'm going to give you my law firm. And the problem is I didn't stay out of trouble. And so, met a girl when I was 16, she was 19. And I just kind of, what I thought at the time was fell in love with her. And it really just kind of sucked me in. It was a tough relationship to be in. And it caused me to really, take my eyes off of, pursuing high school sports and going to college, and I ended up getting her pregnant. And because of the relationship was pretty abusive, I, even more heavy into drugs and alcohol. Between the ages of 17 and 19, I acquired 8 misdemeanors and a felony. They were all drug and alcohol related. Had 2 drunk driving, sold drugs to an undercover cop, and I was arrested 13 times in 2 years. Ended up overdosing, almost dying. Dropped out of high school, again, got her pregnant. And at the age of 19, my life had really hit rock bottom. And my life was so low, Brock, that I had gotten arrested this one time. And I was on all types of drugs. I had been up for over 24 hours with no sleep. And when I got arrested, it was like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. They took me to jail. And, at that time, I was so dehydrated on the drugs and the alcohol that I thought I was going to die. And they wouldn't give me anything to drink in the jail cell. And I literally thought I was going to die. And my life had gotten so low at that time that I actually drank water out of the toilet in jail. And,
I remember that story. I remember that moment right there. When I heard that, that's when I was like, damn, I got it. Like, this guy is freaking like crazy.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people sometimes think their life had gotten low, and we've all had moments of, where our life was low, or maybe we experienced rock bottom. But for me, it really had experienced rock bottom, and you would think that, like, when it's that low, that would be it, right? Like, you'd call it quits, but I kept
Right.
going, and I ended up getting into, a drunk driving accident at 19 that almost took my life. And I had gotten arrested. I was on probation in four different cities. I blew a .21, which was 3 times the legal limit here in Michigan. And my mom, because I was trying to turn my life around, my mom had just let me move in with her, and she had given me the keys to her car after she had just paid it off. And she said, I trust you, and I was going to work, and ended up getting drunk at work because it was on Cinco de Mayo, and I was working at a Mexican restaurant. So I got fired from my job because they caught me drinking margaritas in the parking lot with with customers. I don't even remember it because I was already drunk, and crashed her car that night. I got arrested in the city of Detroit. They took me to jail. And I remember being in jail praying and asking God for a second chance. And I said, God, if you'll give me a second chance and you'll let me out of jail with no bond, I said, I'll give my life to you. Because at that point, I was just done. And I went before the judge. They read my rap sheet and they still let me out with no bond. And I got on a public bus, a city bus, and I took it to this homeless shelter, this faith-based homeless shelter. I checked myself into that homeless shelter at 19 years old. And in that homeless shelter, that's where I found Jesus, and it changed my life.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow, man. Yeah, it's like, I mean, I remember that toilet bowl conversation that you had, and it just is like, it's funny how our brain still is like, all right, well, this is, I think I'm going to do this. And it just amazes to me, like, the thought process that goes inside our head. So here you are. And how old are you now? You're still like
40. So I'm 40. So that was 21 years ago.
21 years ago, because you were 20. Now take
19,
us
yep.
19.
Mm-hmm.
So take us through, because I know you had some challenges, because you have like basically a basketball team with your family now with kids.
Yep.
You went through some challenging times because you went into the entrepreneurship world. We have a
Yep.
lot of entrepreneurs on here today. We're like
Yep.
we're in a tough market, we're in a tough
Hmm.
world, but
Yep.
share with them that story of that next 10 years and how you were like trying to figure out your life and financially of that challenging part.
Yeah. So as I'm living in the homeless shelter, and I at 19, finally it's like God had to slow my life down and remove me from the environment that I was in. And I lived in this homeless shelter just under 6 months. And in there, I had the opportunity to really change, right? I became a Christian, and I was already pursuing that path already. I just didn't know like what it meant to be a Christian or have a relationship with the Lord. And while I'm in the homeless shelter, obviously I come off drugs, I come off alcohol, I get out of the environment that I was in, and God started speaking to me in this homeless shelter. I was living in this dorm room with a bunch of, I'd probably say like 100 stinky homeless men, right? And I'm
Mm.
like in this homeless shelter. It's in the inner city. Tough guys, right? Rough guys. And in this homeless shelter, God starts to show me my future. He tells me he has a purpose for my life, that one day I'm going to write a book. One day, I'm going to get married and have a family. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be a speaker. And now I'm 19 years old living in this homeless shelter, but I'm getting so excited of what God is showing me for my future because I always wanted to be successful. I always wanted to do something great with my life. I just didn't know how. And so I get out of the homeless shelter, and I was introduced to a lady through Mothers Against Drunk Driving because I had to go to this class for my drunk driving and hear this lady share her story about how her husband got killed by a drunk driver. Now, at this time, my life has already changed. I just have to kind of like, pay the price for all of the different consequences of the charges. But I went up to her and I said, I have a story too, and I'd love to share it. She said, how would you like to come share your story in a high school? I said, I would love to. And so all of a sudden, I started sharing my testimony in high schools to young kids about making the right decisions. And so then all of a sudden, I start going down this path of making better decisions, no longer drinking and using drugs, but now using my story to impact people. And then not too long after that, I got introduced to, business. My first introduction to business was through Amway. At the time, it was called Quickstar. And I saw this bigger picture of what was possible in life, of being able to create an amazing life and do it through business and faith. And then I ended up meeting my wife when I was 22, and I had already had a daughter. So I ended up getting full custody of her when she was 4 because I got my life together. Her mom didn't. Met my wife, Joy. She had a son who was 1. We got married very shortly after that. And just to kind of fast forward, just started going down the path of, business and mentorship and learning how to become a successful individual. I got into the mortgage business at the age of 22, which was my introduction to the industry. And so for my whole adult career, I've been involved in real estate. Fast forward today, Joy and I celebrate 18 years married this year. We have 4 kids and a grandson. Our oldest daughter is 22. She got married a couple of years ago, had a son. I think I'm the world's youngest grandpa. You guys can call me. You guys can call me Grandpa Justin if you want. Um, we own multiple businesses. I'm a real estate coach real estate agents all over North America, motivational speaker, authored my book called Unleash that came out last year, where I detail my past, but also 7 key principles on how that I really changed my life. I also have a podcast, and God is just doing some absolutely incredible things. And I really believe that it all had to do with Brock. And this is one of the things that we can wrap up and talk about is it all came from having to deal with all of the trauma and all of the hardship and all of the things from my past, because we all have things that have happened to us in our past, which then cause us to have limiting beliefs, which cause us to go find things to meet needs, to help us to feel better through addiction or whatever. And a lot of times that stuff holds us back. And I had to really work through a lot of mess and a lot of baggage to be able to go from drinking out of a toilet, right, to being a very successful individual today.
Oh man, yeah. And throughout this time period too, not only the your success and where you are, but the financial hardship of like, I mean, I think you said one time you guys were all living together in one house and one room with like six of you, or what was that living like?
Yeah. So after I had gotten into the mortgage business, my wife and I both come from a very low income, family situation. So back in 2005, when I got into the mortgage business, I thought I had arrived at the mothership, right? Once I tasted commission income, I thought I had arrived because I was never a good employee. I had gotten fired from every single job that I had ever worked. And so when I became an independent contractor, I'm like, this is it. So we went from really making, $7, $8 an hour to making six figures. And so we had gotten into the mortgage business right at the tail end of the boom, and then went from six figures to no figures overnight back in 2006, 7. And we lost everything. We lost our house to foreclosure, both of our cars to repossession. We had to go through bankruptcy. We had to get on food stamps, and we had to move into my mom's house and live on her basement floor for 6 months. And I always call that my humble pie experience, right? I had to eat some humble pie, and it was a difficult time in my life, but it was a defining moment in my life because it built character in me, and it developed something in me which caused me to be where I am today.
Man, and I wanted you to share that story because I know there's a lot of people on here. We there's when we speak and we share these type of motivational type of things where people had to figure it out. People on this call right now, you are trying to figure it out. I remember
Mm.
laying in a hotel room. It was one of those like ones that you see along the highway that was like 1999 for like the night, and it was just like and I remember it. I'm like, why am I even in here? And I woke up miserable, and it was just like, and for when you shared your story, you don't have a pot to piss in, a window to throw it out. You're just trying everything you possibly can. And for those that are listening today, whatever your challenge is, whatever your situation is, just know that, and I say this in a very loose way, but like you're not drinking out of a toilet. Okay. Like that's a pretty low moment. But where Justin is today in having God in his life and understanding it's around the environment, it's about the belief, it's about your significant other, it's about what your purpose is, all these things that Justin shared with us. Do you see now why I was like, I got to meet this guy? I was like, I don't care where he is. I'm going to go find him because at that point in my life, I was trying to figure out myself because I had the missing piece. It was the spiritualness I was missing. And at the time period, you don't know what you're missing. You don't know what you don't know. But when you hear somebody, we're going to put Justin's information on here and you'll be able to reach out to him. We're going to put his book on here. Jay's going to put his book in the chats and you can get his book. I have his book and it's on Amazon. And to be able to hear what he went through and what he did, like this is like, that's why I love people who figure it out. I'm pretty sure, Justin, you didn't have an owner's manual. Like you didn't have a life's owner manual. Be like, all right, we're sleeping on my mom's floor. Let me go to chapter 7. I think this is where this is. Right.
No, no, and I love how you call it "Figure It Out Friday" because everybody on this call, has been through or currently going through or will go through obstacles and trials and tribulations. None of us are exempt from that. And I think a lot of times we feel when we're going through hard times or when we're experiencing difficulty, we ask ourselves why, right? Did I do something wrong? Why is this happening to me? We make it all about us, and we really struggle with what's going on. But I'll say this, and my pastor Brock really, it was so powerful when he said this and so profound, and I want to share this with those that are here. Several years back, I went to him and I said, Pastor, I said, why is life so hard? Why does it feel like it's one thing after another? And here's what he said. He said, Justin, he said, character is not a gift, and he said, character is not something that you can pray for. Character only is developed in the hard times. He says,
Mm.
who you are trying to become and who you're called to be, you need to develop into that person. And you don't develop character and you don't develop maturity and you don't grow on the mountaintop. You grow in the valley. You grow during the hard times. Your character is developed through difficult situations. I mean, even think of it in a natural metaphor, right? Like if you go to the top of the mountain, there's nothing growing up there. There's no
Mm.
greenery up there. The greenery and the growth takes place in the valley. And once he said that to me, I was blown away because even there's a verse in the Bible in James chapter 1 where James says, count it all joy when you go through trials and tribulations. And I used to
Amen.
think, how in the world can you count it joy when you're going through hell? right?
Yeah.
But the second part of that verse says, count it all joy when you go through various trials and tribulations, because it's the testing of your faith and what you're going through is actually producing endurance, which then is causing you to be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. And so when we're going through hard times, it's building something in us to take us along the journey of where he's ultimately taken us. So,
Amen. Amen. That is
yep,
so there's a saying, things don't happen to us, they happen for us.
yep,
And we don't understand it at the time period. And that's the victim mentality of like, oh, I can't believe this is happening to me. Why me, God? And really, when I pray for strength, and I remember you sharing part of this story to me, and I shared it with you guys that are on this call. When you pray for strength and abundance and endurance, guys, I pray for stamina every day. I write it in my journal. And that's what I pray for. Well, God can't give me an easy path. Like, how's he going to make, like, when you get stronger to do bench press, like, you can't just bench press the bar, guys. Like, eventually you got to put weight on it to get resistance. And that's what life does. It builds resistance to make you stronger, because Justin is living proof of that. So, man, I really appreciate your message today, brother. And I know there's a lot of you on here. So if you guys can, please give us some hearts, give us some loves out there for what Justin did. Put it in the chat, Facebook world, give us the hearts and the loves on there, because when it comes time for sharing the story, like, you guys, we speak and we motivate and we encourage, but every time our mind has to go back to that day. Like, I guarantee you, when he said drinking out of a toilet, like, he envisions it in his head. Right? Like, you remember that. And
yep.
so I appreciate you guys being on here. For those, we put Justin's book in the chat. Sherry and Sandy, thank you so much. And Cullen. So thank you, Facebook world. I see the hearts and the loves and the thumbs up and all the chat comments for you, Justin. It's just truly an inspiration for us. He's out of Michigan, guys. If you got anybody out in Michigan, feel free to reach out to him. If you get his book, please read the book. Just a really inspirational. He's changed my life, and he has helped me be the person I am today. I love you, brother, and I thank you so much for everything that you've done for me. Anything you want to conclude with, Justin? Anything you want to send us off with here as we conclude today? Figure It Out Friday.
Yep. I do want to leave you with two things. For one, Brock, I just want to say how proud I am of you, buddy. Just to see all the great things that you're doing, man. You're an incredible leader. You're an incredible dad. Honestly, if anybody should have the Dad of the Year award, it's you. You're an amazing man, and the best is yet to come for you, brother. And I appreciate you. And for those of you guys that are on here, I always, even on my podcast, which you can find, it's called the Justin Ford Unleashed podcast. There's two things. Number one, it's not how you start. What matters is how you finish. And number two is, with God, all things are possible. Those are the two things that I truly live by. It's not how you start. So it doesn't matter where you are right now. What matters is where you're going. And number two, with God, all things are possible. So honor to be on the show. Thank you so much, Brock. Really appreciate you. And thank you, everybody, for listening to me today.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you all, guys. Happy Friday to y'all. All have a blessed weekend. We'll be back Monday morning at 8:15. And Justin also has his prayer group call. A bunch of real estate agents get together every morning at 7:30. It's on my Facebook, so feel free. You guys can look at that. But we got the Facebook group. Love to have you. 7:30 Eastern time. We come together in prayer. So, and you'll hear Justin. Justin leads on Monday, so you'll hear him on Monday morning. God bless you all. Thank you so much, Justin. Appreciate you, man. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see ya.